Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show's about to begin. Nathan, let's put on a show.
Let's do it.
Today's guest is Nathan Kirkham, Managing Director of Phoenix Homes, and it's their second time back on the show. So welcome to Golden Nuggets. Phoenix Homes have got a lot more nuggets to drop.
I hope so, yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining. Now, in this episode, Nathan is going to break down we're going to talk about maybe the real costs of running a business. I know there's a lot of aspiring agents out there at the moment who are asking themselves a question, should I just go and set up on my own? And I think with, your years of experience and the setup that you've got at Phoenix Homes, you're in a good position to answer that question. So we're going to dive into that today. So we're going to talk about ego, we're going to talk about ops, we're going to talk about everything in between. And yes, we might throw a little playful shade at Miles Bush. Watch his episode as well after this if you haven't already.
Very good episode.
So whether you're an agent or superstar sales manager or you're just on the rise, this is an episode for you not to be missed. Okay, now, Nathan, your missus, she wanted you to start your own agency, right? And you didn't.
Yeah, no, she said to me, what do you want to do? You've been doing it for everyone else. You should have your own agency. Let's save up the money. Let's do it. But we didn't.
Why not?
A couple of reasons. Timing being probably the main one. And also the sense of duty of care, I think, to the people that I'd be employing.
Right. It's a responsibility.
It's a huge responsibility. And I've been a part of a few different operations now, and it's a massive task. It's not for the faint-hearted. And when I was fresh in a marriage, obviously you're trying to put a sensible amount of time into that as well. So you have to put your heart and soul into it. And if you can't go big or go home, then you're best to find an alternative solution. And to be completely honest with you, I wasn't ready. I look back now, 3-4 years later, I wasn't good enough back then to do it.
And I think we've obviously both from the UK. And in the UK, there is that mentality of stepping stones. We're going to work in a career, 10 years, step up to management, director. We go through the ranks, as they say. But what I've noticed, and I don't know if it's a regional thing or a generational thing, but if you're in your 20s and your 30s, right now, they're so entrepreneurial. And there's a lot of inspiration out there, encouraging people to become business owners. And, you have to have ownership of your own business to make it in life. But why else do you think that the agents of today might be in such a rush to open up their own brokerage?
I think social media plays a massive part. You only have to open up Instagram and you see a 21-year-old with a Ferrari and I just flew business class and this and that. And then you look and they're an influencer and all these things seem really, really easy. So everybody thinks that everything's obtainable. And then we've got this natural greed element to capture this money. So if you're at a high street agency and you've gone there from scratch and they've trained you and you've become a good agent, it's easy to sit there and go, I don't need any help anymore.
Yeah. Got my
stripes.
And
I want all the money that I've been leaving behind. I've been giving away. Yeah. I've been taxed, however you want to describe it, I guess. And I think also we're a very, very false society these days. Nobody posts. I remember when I was a broker and I'd be stood in a villa in Arabian Ranches in July during Ramadan.
Sweating.
Absolutely. Yeah. I used to wear a waistcoat, a three-piece suit, just to hide. It's just horrible. And now it's shorts and T-shirts. It's a completely different industry. I think also people look at their managers sometimes and think, this is easy.
Yeah. And there is that kind of impatience that I find in the industry. And as you said, they think kind of 6 months in and, all right, that's it. I know what I'm doing.
Correct.
I'm off.
Yeah.
What do you think is a reasonable time? Like if you could say, right, I wouldn't advise someone to do it before having X years experience, what would you say that is?
Really difficult to answer in regard that, myself and my business partners, Miles and Martin, we've got over 30 years experience here in Dubai in the real estate market and over 80 years sales experience. Do we think we're the best thing in the universe? No. We're old enough and we're humble enough to accept that we're still learning every day.
Yeah.
So when you see someone who's done 2 years and been, broker of the month a few times, and they've opened their own real estate, doesn't mean it's a bad thing for them. But how can you convince people to move thousands of miles away from the family to set up a new life under the direction of someone who doesn't have that level of experience? I think you're doing a disjustice to the people you're employing.
Yeah,
personally.
And you mentioned that there is that kind of resentment of you're either paying tax or you're giving away 50% of your income, and you think you can do it better. Where do you think that stems from? That kind of resentment, like what value are they missing? Where would someone be perfectly fine giving away 50% of their commission, not getting a salary? They're perfectly fine if what is in place.
First 2 to 3 years, 1 to 2 years, it's really, really important. If you're at a good company, if they're giving you training, if they're improving you, if they're helping you, they deserve that money. They deserve that money. Where a lot of the industry fails is taking them from, let's say, 0 to 10, 10 being perfect, 0 being brand new. They're very, very good at getting you to 3. They don't concern themselves with taking you from 3 to 6 or 7. It's all on you. Not a lot of companies have, and we'll probably get into it later on, not a lot of companies have training for the mid-level brokers. It's very much a case of we roll around the bottom, we bring 25 in, we lose 20, and we're constantly just concentrating on that bottom end of the market. And that's terrible. Yeah. Because you're sat at a company stagnant.
See, I've never really thought about that level 3 to level 6 broker. And I think in the by and large, they're probably learning mostly from experience, bad experiences, good experiences, and they're tailoring their style or approach to become a level 7 to 10 agent. But also, I'm a firm believer in like personal development. You don't have to wait for your CEO or training manager to come in and say, right, we're having a workshop on XYZ. There's so much information out there on YouTube, podcasts, not just this one, but there are other real estate podcasts available. But there's so much education out there to get from a 3 to a 6. What else can you do to get from a 3 to a 6?
The problem is there's too much information and not all of it's accurate.
Yeah.
What works for one person doesn't work for another person.
True.
And if you put it in driving terms, we can all drive. Some of us have got a license. Doesn't mean you can retake the test tomorrow. Learning and putting into action are two different things. And then, of course, in Dubai, you've got the culture in the region. If I'm training an agent, I could be explaining something to them in their second or third language. True. And they're a very different personality. I could get away with saying something to a client that they couldn't say. Right. I always use the analogy of if you listen to two Russians speaking to each other. And I did this training session once. I asked 2 Russian sisters to tell each other they loved each other profusely in Russian. Right. And it sounded like they were having an argument. And then there was 2 Italians. I had them have an argument, and it sounded like
they were telling each other they love each other.
So it's such a melting pot, Dubai. There's no right way of doing anything. You need to continually learn and learn off other people. If your manager has been doing the job 5 more minutes than you, how can you learn off that person?
And I always said like that sales manager role is the worst gig in real estate. What do you reckon?
Unfortunately, generally in the market, the sales manager is the longest serving member of staff, or the best person in that area gets the team leader, etc., etc. The massive problem with that is the best agents won't take on a sales manager role because they're earning good money. They're not having to deal with other people. They're not having to train people, develop, be available. So
they see what their sales manager has to put up with.
They see the stress. They see the whatever it is. So they don't want to do it. So then of course the sales manager's salary tends to be on the low side and relies on commissions. So most decent agents aren't going to do that job. So you're then left with, unfortunately, a different level of person being the manager, which is not great for the agents because they can't develop. Or the flip side is you get a really strong manager who's doing his deals. So he's so busy out there doing his deals.
He's not around to help.
He's not mentoring and helping.
He or she, sorry.
He or she. They're not there to mentor or help you. And that's it. If you've got 10 years experience here in Dubai, you're not going to be managing or team leading. You're going to be looking further down the line. So there's a disjoint there.
Yeah.
There's a complete disjoint.
And that glance further down the line, I think most people are blissfully unaware of the costs involved. And you're an ops guy, so can you just give us a flavour of what an agent or someone who's looking to start their own thing, what do they need to consider?
I'd rather leave the financials aside. Anybody can get a little bit of money, and money's not the main cost with it. You can go and get a license.
You think it's a mentality?
It's the biggest use of our lives. The biggest cost to me is my own personal time. So if I'm a good agent and I'm spending time interviewing, arranging visas, dealing with AML, dealing with contractual clauses, dealing with lawyers, whatever that may be, dealing with problems, my time is taken away from my main areas, which might be training and developing, or it might be doing my own deals. So it's that almost that loss of earnings because of the time. There's got to be a team of you that splits up the resources, who are good at, okay, I'm great at operations, so I'm going to do that. I'm great at recruiting. So you've got to have a team of people. Otherwise, there is obviously then the financial costs. I think, personally, I think a lot of people do have a good month and think, okay, fantastic. I'm going to get 100% of that if I open a business.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot less than that by the time you take everything away. Then you're going to do less deals because you're busy.
So, I mean, how I see Phoenix Homes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like, is it the stepping stone to opening up your own brokerage, like the step before, or?
I think some people think it is. The reality is we've got more people joining us that used to own their own companies and manage teams and lead teams than people leaving to set up their own operation.
Interesting.
Because
so it's the fallback as well.
If you think about it, if you're spending so much time invested in other people, and to give you a prime example, I have a baby. So at the weekend, my time is precious with my daughter. If I'm taking calls every 5 minutes from inexperienced brokers asking, what should I say in this situation? What should I do here? My client hasn't turned up. How should I send a text message? My time's away from my family, so you don't get the balance. And then you try and hire, more experienced people. They still need help. So you're not giving your best personally, professionally, to yourself, to your clients, or to your staff. It's a lose-lose.
Right. And so those people that have gone and set up their own brokerage and then come back to Phoenix, is there a common theme, or do they all have different reasons why it couldn't take off, or why they shut down?
Majority of them struggled with the whole. They didn't realise how big it was, how much you had to do, how little time you had to do
your own
what
deals.
I suppose. Yeah, you thought if you're doing 100,000 dirhams every month, you're thinking, great, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to take X percentage off A, B, C, D, and E. It doesn't work like that. The reality is like the reality of becoming a broker. Go on Instagram and see a good broker. It'll be, I'm on the Palm, I'm in the Atlantis. You won't see the 17-hour shift that they put in the day before and them crying when the deal collapsed the previous evening. No one puts that on Instagram.
So the people that come back maybe had like rose-tinted glasses, perhaps, or?
Everybody should, try something if they've got a real itch to scratch. The difference with Phoenix is that they can come and experience owning their own company within the umbrella of Phoenix Homes without the pain and the staffing issues and a PRO and AML, all those things that, I won't bore you with all those ops sort of details, but you can have all of that pleasure without the pain and for a fraction of the potential cost.
So talk to us about why people are joining Phoenix having as the next part of their career rather than a regression from opening their own brokerage and then coming back.
It's quite simple. Once you reach a certain stage with your company you're at, if you're not getting anything else from that, if you don't need the support, and I don't think, and I might be wrong, please don't hate me, everyone. There's not many companies in the UAE that offer any kind of mentorship, training, support, guidance for good brokers. They deal with the low-hanging fruit. So the good brokers don't improve. Every single broker, I think pretty much without fail, that's joined us has improved.
Right.
They're surrounded by better people. They've got optional masterclasses, mentorships every single week without fail.
And the keyword optional.
Absolutely.
What's the take up on that, would you say?
I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm getting annoyed. I like to do it in the boardroom. And we can fit about 15, 20 max in the boardroom before it gets very hot and very sweaty. But I like to be in there. And I've done the last 7 on the office floor because there's been too many people in them, which
So
is
there
a
is,
great problem to have.
Yeah.
We need a bigger
And
office,
that's
probably.
reassuring.
But
There's still the appetite to develop.
I remember when I was training brand new agents, you're trying to train them the whole job in 1 week. They're not listening about how to do a contract because they've not made their first call yet. So they close their ears. By making the training optional, people only come with their ears open and a pen ready to absorb. So, and I, unfortunately, I've coined your phrase for many, many years. It's nuggets. I only want them to take golden nuggets away from the session. They don't have to memorize things. All of our sessions that we do are all conceptual. They're all designed to give people the tools to then convert to how they operate. And I think that's really, really important.
And it's, I've been to a couple of conferences recently, and even in a full day conference, you might only pull out one nugget or one takeaway, and that will stick with you. But you've spent the whole entire day on that conference. Whereas, these kind of, what do you call them, masterclasses, how many hours?
1 hour max.
1 hour. Keep
1
it
hour max.
For the TikTok
There'll
generation.
be a bang on the door. If I've waffled on more than an hour, end, done. But I always say, don't try and remember everything. We'll write some bullet points down. Don't remember everything. Take one thing away, whether it's from me. And to be honest, more and more now, we're learning off each other. I'm learning off the guys. They're learning off. It's a collaborative effort. It's not a teacher stood at the class saying recite X, Y, Z.
And the one thing that I see, would you call it the self-employed model? Would you actually call it that?
No, we're not. They're not self-employed. They are a business. They're self-employed under our banner, I guess. They have the autonomy to run their business how they choose. But we have rules, we have regulations, we have, some, certain things that have to happen.
Expectations.
You can't just, just let everybody run amok. They need guidance.
And I think the interesting thing about this model, or the way that you guys do it, that I don't necessarily see many others do it, is empowering the agent to create their own personal brand and appear as if they have their own brokerage, right?
When I started 10 years ago, I'd hand over the business card and go, oh, look who I work for. Yeah. The top 5 companies when I started 10 years ago, I don't think 2 or 3 of them even exist anymore. It's such a fast-moving industry. You now don't need to have the power of a brand behind you. It's all about you personally. That's the way all sales and all industries have gone now. And that's the beauty of it.
And I think the UK is slow to that shift. They're still heavily reliant on the company brand, the heritage of the company, and they've got brand police and so on, where actually there is a rise in the self-employed model in the UK, where each broker has their own mini business within the business. But let's dive into that a little bit more. From the seller's perspective or the landlord's perspective, how important is having that company brand behind you, that well-known established brand behind you?
It's not as important as it used to be. And the sellers have realized that. The sellers are dealing with, to give you a prime example, if you work at a high street agency and you have a unit and you give it to me, I'm your salesperson, you say, I want to rent it out, Nathan. And I have to say, Silvia, I can't rent it. I'm not allowed to do rentals. I need to pass it to Bob. in my rentals team. Bob could have joined 3 weeks ago. So I'm now passing on a key client to potentially inferior levels of service. And I've wrecked the client relationship. I've wrecked the company's relationship, all because of a rule within the company. So that doesn't work. The company loses out because they had this set stick. You've got to do this rule. And we're in a people industry.
What would you say makes a bad sales manager in Dubai? Call out the bad characteristics or behaviors.
I think
they might not even mean to do, but
the key thing you've said is manager. We're not managers. We're leaders.
Yeah.
There's a very good analogy about a wolf pack. The leader of the wolf pack, the gang of the wolf pack, is the last wolf to oversee everything else.
Not the one at the front.
No, the front ones are the oldest, the sickest. They set the pace so that they're not left behind. And then you've got strong ones. Then you've got the middle of the pack. Then you've got strong ones again. And then the leader behind overseeing. You shouldn't be managing your team. You should be leading the team forward. But that all comes back to lack of training. All comes back to lack of training. Most managers have been put in that position by the owner because they're the most senior or they've been there the longest. Not because they can necessarily organise, manage and lead and mentor. It comes down to time quite often.
And so if you were talking to an agent right now, let's say, what would you be looking for? What would you ask them to reflect on themselves, like to identify whether they're being held back? So what questions would you ask, or what would you want to know to see if they're being held back?
I think once you start opening eyes and showing them, like a lot of agencies, they will prey on the fact that they do everything for them and it costs lots and lots of money. So that's why they can only give a certain percentage, because everything costs money. And sometimes it's as simple as us showing them how much their company has spent on them for their marketing. We might show them, okay, this is how much the marketing would cost with us. If it's 2,000 dirhams and they're doing 100,000 dirhams and they're giving a 50% tax away, they're giving 50,000 dirhams away, minus a few thousand dirhams, where's the rest of that money going? Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that are very, very happy under the high street model and doing very well and loving it. Great. If you're getting the level of support you need, if you've got managers, you've got team leaders, you've got people that are growing you as an agent, are helping you get better and better each month, and you're improving, fantastic. Stay there. They're doing brilliant. But most are not expecting you to last long. There's a loyalty issue in the Dubai real estate market. There'll be a recruiter next week, ring them up and say, the grass is greener over there. It's the same.
Just as green.
It's the same. But then the manager thinks, well, what happens if I train them and they leave? The question should be, what happens if I don't train them and improve them and they stay?
Yeah.
That's the difference in mentality. And it can absolutely be improved in the industry, 100%.
So if you were going to do a masterclass tomorrow on great leadership, what would the agenda look like?
Exactly the words you've just said. Leadership, training and support, mentoring the agents to improve. If you're not improving 1% a day where you are, you're not in the right place. This is not a job you're going to do for 60 years. You've got to be improving every single day. And if people aren't interested in improving you, then you're probably not in the right place, because they're being very, very selfish. They're keeping you below a glass ceiling to protect their profits, their incomes. Yeah? If you treat them right and help them grow and garner that loyalty, there's no reason for them to leave.
To venture.
Yeah, a few of our agents just recently have come in and they've doubled their earnings because they've received additional support and help. They'll come and say, oh my God, I didn't even know about that. I'm like, what? They could be going out with their company's logo on them, representing the company with very little experience. Whereas I can categorically state that if they're going out with a Phoenix polo shirt on, they've got years of experience and an ability to help their client. So it's a totally different way of life.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, you've got like 3 decades of
I'm
sales.
old. Just say it. I'm old.
You're old. 3 decades of sales experience, not just in real estate, other products. So what is the most, and a lot of people have gone straight into real estate as their first sales role, but when you've sold cars or double glazing, whatever it might be, you realize that there's so many parts of the actual sales technique that relate to any product that you're selling. So what is the kind of, what are your golden nuggets on sales? What's so important to make sure that you're not missing, whether it comes, regardless of the market, regardless of the product, what's your kind of key sales nuggets?
If you could only be good at one element of sales, it's 100 million %, if that's even a percentage, qualification. Qualification covers all the way through the sales process. If you can correctly qualify your client, if you can have a sensible conversation where you can garner all the information you need to help them make a decision, a consultative approach, if you can do that successfully, you're going to save your time, you're going to save your client's time, you're going to find them a better product, you'll be able to work on all the things they're looking for. But if you can't qualify correctly, most people qualify a little. How many bedrooms do you need? Price.
How much?
And then they stop. Yeah. The first questions are always budget related. It's never why. It's never putting yourself in their shoes and saying, why do you want to live in the marina? And that's really important, because if I understand my client correctly, I can offer them something which actually might suit their criteria 20 times better, but might be different budget, different location. It could be a real curveball, but it could save their...
And qualification is not, when we think of qualification in the region, we think, do they have their finances in place? That's all. And are they interested in buying or selling, or, you know, that's what's typically considered qualifying them, that they're good to go. But we understand qualification a little bit deeper than that. And to truly qualify someone, you have to ask certain questions. And some of those questions might be quite uncomfortable for someone who's not got that confidence level. So are there any killer questions that you ask any of your clients that never let you down?
I think the key to it is to ask, to have a conversation, not an interrogation, not with the bright lights. And it's a conversation. Oh, we currently live here. Okay, why is it you chose to live there? And it gives you an idea of the mindset. Why is it you're looking for a 3-bed? Isn't there just you and your wife? Yeah, well, we're thinking about X, Y, you know, and then you start to understand their logical thought process. And then obviously, let's face it, salespeople, real estate agents, car salesmen, clients don't look at us and, you know, hand their wallet over. There's a real keeping your cards close to your chest element to the business. If we can encourage them to tell us the truth, a true sales agent can help find them a much better product that suits them, not just deliver what they allegedly say they wanted.
The order taker.
Yeah, you've got to dive into it. You know, a very, very long time ago, I had a training session. It's called What, Why. Not just what do you want, but what do you really want, and then why do you want it? Most agents, they do the first bit.
Yeah, what? And that's
Maybe some do the second. Real top agents, the real rock stars, they do all 3 stages.
And there's a nice way of asking the why without sounding like you're interrogating someone. It's just by saying, out of curiosity, why X, Y, Z?
It's a friendship. You're building a relationship.
But the problem is, it takes time to build the relationship. And in the UK, when I was a broker, we had all that time because we were picking them up, driving them to the viewing. We're probably in the car with them for half an hour, or we might be on the phone with them, qualifying them for about 15 minutes. Yeah. And that used to be a measure of, like, I always knew if I was going to sell or rent to someone by how long I had them on the phone on the initial registration. I knew if they were off the phone within 2 minutes, that wasn't going to be a deal. It's going nowhere. But I knew if I was on the phone to them for more than 10 minutes, that's going to close.
100%. If your first call with a client is not 5, 6, 8, 10 minutes long, you're missing key elements to what they're looking for. And I was guilty of it when I first came over, because of course you're told in the high street model, you need to do this number of calls, this number of viewings. So you go, right, I've made the call, let's rush to the viewing.
But there's no quality.
You mentioned time. If it takes me 30 minutes to get to the ranches for a viewing, I do a viewing for 30 minutes and I come back, that's an hour and a half I've wasted. Yeah. If I spent 5 more minutes on the phone, I could have maybe prevented doing the wrong viewing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, bigger picture. Bigger picture. Time is our only commodity.
And when did you realize just being a good closer isn't enough?
The market's changed considerably. The market's changed. You can have all the salesy answers in the world and the shall we go sign the papers and did you bring your checkbook, those kind of things. But you don't need any of that if, back to my original point, you've done your qualification. People want to buy from people. We live in an information world where people now go online, get all of that information, learn much more than some agents know. So you can't just turn up and say, okay, here's a pen, you're ready to sign. We're an information giving service now. And we've almost got to earn the right to make the sale. That's the industry we're in.
Are there any other bad habits you wish agents would drop?
Yes, and probably I was guilty of this in the beginning, certainly in my old career in the car industry. It's overload of information. Overload of information. Talking too much. Am I allowed to say verbal diarrhea?
Yeah.
It's essential that we use what God gave us, and He gave us 2 ears and He gave us 1 mouth. Lots of people who know me will be like, well, stop talking then, basically.
Yeah. You're supposed to use them in that ratio, 2 to 1.
Absolutely. I've heard so many sales calls over the years, and it's been, okay, I've got this. And you can hear the client say the same thing 3 times. It needs to have this much space. And they've not picked up on it because they're too busy splurging the information they've been told to. It's got this much square foot. Let's just take a step back, receive, and then consult. It's a consultative approach. It's completely normal.
And from your experience, what was the hardest truth you had to learn about Dubai real estate?
Hard
that
work.
You had to learn the hard way?
Hard work. Simply hard work. There is no substitute. I came here when I was 35, 36, and I'd been relatively successful in the car industry back in the UK. And I came here and I was programmed to do KPIs. I was programmed to do this, and do what the bosses tell you to do, and
like a factory.
And I didn't do a deal for 8 weeks. My first 8 weeks in the company, and the 2 other people that joined on the same week as me. By end of week 1, they were doing deals. I was like, I'm outworking them, and it hasn't happened. But that's the job. It's brutal. It's unrelenting. It kicks you every single day. It punches you every single day in this job. And if you don't dust yourself down, put a smile on your face, and go back out there and do it all again the next day, you will fail. And I can't sort of emphasize that enough. It is hard work over everything else in the world. And if you can learn, and if you can add skill sets to that along the way, if you're friendly and personable, then you'll be extremely successful.
Okay.
But without hard work, don't bother.
And if you were going to write the book, Don't Be That Broker, what would the first chapter be called?
Short term. Don't be a short-term broker. There's too much short-termism, if that's a word. People thinking about that next deal, or bypassing that agent who was a friend or whatever it might be, looking after the client just for today, not for tomorrow. You should always be looking, and companies should do this as well, managers should do this, owners. You should always be thinking about what happens when the keys get handed over in 2 years, 3 years' time. And I don't know why I've always looked at things in that way, but it's probably been the difference between where I am now and where I potentially maybe would have been.
At least you sleep at night.
Yeah, even me and my wife, we bumped into an old client of mine at the golf club. We were playing golf with them, and he said to me, to this day, still the best agent who ever worked for me. And I was like, and my wife heard that, and she was like, oh wow, I married the right person, But It's true. I always think about where I will bump into that client again. I need him to still know that what I did was correct and right. And we live in Dubai, where having lived here for 8 years or 10 years, that's a lifetime. You've got to think long term.
And going back to long term, or going back to the original question, knowing all that you know, and being faced with the choice as well yourself, what would you tell the person watching this now who's questioning themselves, should I just start my own thing? What would Nathan Kirkham say to them?
If you haven't done it already, and you haven't got a unique angle, you haven't got a very salesy, a unique selling point, a USP, there's no point. Why would I, as a broker, or Bob, or Bobette, our female broker, why would I join your high street model when there's some very, very successful high street models out there? Why would I join your 80% model when you've got Phoenix Homes, who's very, very successful out there? And then you're looking at, okay, well, I have to do 85 or 90 or 95. Then you're going to go bankrupt. So if you haven't done it and you're not prepared to go big, do it properly. All you've got to do is go back 5 years, look at the top 5, see if that top 5 is the same now. It's not. There's brokerage now that didn't exist 3-4 years ago that you'd recommend over and above others. Phoenix being, we're about to have our 4th birthday. We didn't exist 5 years ago, and yet now we should be the home for any strong, aspiring 5+ broker. If we go back to my crazy
your scale. All right. And I want to finish off because we've spoken about what good agents look like, what bad agents look like, what bad leadership looks like. Just tell us what good leadership looks like, Nathan.
Good leadership is the right people in charge of the right things. So I don't know how much you know about our business, but
I've met Miles.
You've met Miles. Yeah, everyone's met Miles. Miles has his skill set, so he takes care of his area of expertise, which is definitely the people side of the business. Martin is very much the numbers and the finance guy, so he takes care of that side of the business.
You've got to have one of them.
Absolutely. And then I take care of the operations, the day-to-day. So when we set the company in motion, I said, I'm going to work I'll be in every day, 9 to 5:30, to make sure that our brokers have exactly what they need. If they can't get hold of the person that helps them with the listings or anything like that, then we're slowing them down. So that's one element of leadership is being humble enough to accept, okay, this is my good bit, this is what I'm not so good at, those kind of things. And then I think the main problem you've got in the high street model is if your manager is also a broker, then they're taking business from you.
Or they could potentially. Yeah.
There's a competition. It might even be that that they need to get the deal in this month for their commissions, but you need the client to take a bit longer to make a decision. So you get this conflict, and that's not helpful for closing deals. We don't have that. We don't have micromanagement. We're not looking over someone's shoulder saying, "Where are you? What are you doing?" We're there to help. Our agents know that. They know I'll be there every day. If they want to come in and talk about anything, have a half-hour session on anything, any training, any development, any personal, mental, they know they can grab any one of us. Miles and Martin committed. They're always in every morning, and majority will also be in the afternoon. So they've got this support network without it being overbearing.
So there's always someone in the office, but you don't have to be in the office.
No, but we want people to come in because I couldn't work from home. I could never work from home. Some agents can do. Some of our agents we see once a week, give us a couple of files, off they go again. Most agents think they can work from home and they like the idea of sitting on the beach or whatever, but they don't. They need some structure. They need to be around other agents. They need to be learning. They need to be, hearing Miles on the phone. They need to be asking Martin about a clause for a contract, whatever it may be. But it's essential to a business that you understand what you need, and I think we create that environment.
And there's that old saying, isn't there? You are the the sixth of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So maybe some agents don't come into the office because actually they're not inspired by the people that do turn up to the office. And they know that the top agents just dip in, drop off their checks, and then dip out.
You've hit the nail on the head. Also, some agencies have this thing where the best brokers don't have to go in. So when you are in, you're surrounded by maybe mediocrity. I think it was Richard Branson that said, surround yourself with the top people. 100%. 100%. If nobody's in our office, and by the way, that never happens now, but me, Miles and Martin are there, there's 30 years experience to tap into straight away.
And what was it? 80 years of sales
80 years of sales experience. Even our support team are all 6, 7, 8 years of experience behind them. So, we don't have junior people, full stop. Full stop. Let alone agents, junior. We have a very experienced team. We have a very experienced support team. So we're always going to be there. And we've been asked the question before, so we're not afraid to be asked the question again. It's a brilliant little environment we've got set up that I don't think anyone else can recreate.
You're an ops guy, Nathan. Well, you're the one out of the 3 that's responsible for operations. Tell us about some of the systems that have got the Nathan trademark attached to it, or, what are you doing differently as a leader?
I think, first of all decisions made by the 3 of us, by Phoenix Homes, they're decisions made by brokers for brokers. They're broker-centric decisions.
Right.
They're not accounts-based or management-based. They're for brokers. Everything we do, whether it's picking a CRM, it's all done for brokers. So to give you an example, obviously, as a broker, no restrictions on area, no restrictions on offering off-plan or secondary. It's designed so that brokers can deal with their client to the maximum ability. Now, of course, we encourage brokers, if they're going to list in any area, to be sure that they know what they're selling. Otherwise, they can't actually help clients who call them up. And when they call up, it's a dedicated phone line to the broker. It doesn't come through a switchboard. It's not, I'll route you on now. It's their business, so they should receive the calls directly.
I used to hate that when I'd go on a listing, see a number, and it says, okay, you're going to get through to this agent. And you call up and you get through to reception. And they just take your name and number. And I'm like, now I have to wait for the agent that I wanted to speak to immediately to call me back.
We live in a very fast-paced world. Even now, if I do a WhatsApp to a company and it comes back with one of those AI bots, do you want this? Oh, stop.
Yeah, and
just
chat.
Put someone on the phone somewhere so I can have a conversation. And that we're thinking like brokers and thinking, what do clients want from brokers as well? Because at the end of the day, our company is made up of brokers, but we're a service industry. We're servicing clients. What do clients want? Do clients want a 360 model? Do they want our broker to be able to offer all the services in the industry and have the knowledge and the skills to do that? Of course they do. They don't want referring on at every 5 minutes. Now you need to go and speak to this person because he knows about this and this lady knows about this. No, the brokers are empowered to have all of that 360 knowledge of the industry so they can offer a full service to clients.
Got it.
Broker-centric, client-centric, simple.
Okay, well, thank you for that wonderful advice.
Hopefully.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Golden Nuggets with Silvia Eldawi. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll put the link to Miles's episode on the thingy. Let's see if he's upgraded his phone. If you watch that episode, you'll see he's
hot off the press. He has a new phone.
Okay. Do we know what number it is? It's an iPhone.
It came in a wrapper and it was this year. Okay. That's all I can tell you.
He's gone from an 11 to a 16. Yay. All right. Well, happy birthday and happy congratulations on the upgrade. Send him my regards. All right.
Will do. Thanks,
Thank you.